just a slight pivot from arguing with the crackhead that we argued with earlier. On a serious note, here we go. There's a study that WebMD, had put. They didn't put the study out. It's just a new study that confirms a lot of what we have been saying before. And that is that, and I'm going to go back here before I pull it up. Vitamin D study, vitamin D deficiency, on the wrong thing, is linked to severe COVID. Now, wait a minute. There were people that said this early on in the pandemic. You couldn't say that. That maybe there are some physical things that may have been wrong, as well as some things that you could have taken in your own hand. You put it in your own body in terms of responsibility. You could have done something to alleviate what was the problem of COVID that didn't require you getting jabs. See, this lets you know that it wasn't all about health. I'll reiterate on that here in a little bit. People with vitamin D deficiency are more likely to have a severe or critical case of COVID, according to a new study published in the journal PLOS ONE. The study is based on data from Israel's first two coronavirus waves before vaccines were widely available. The scientists stressed that vitamin supplements aren't a substitute for vaccines, but that they help immunity levels. All right, I'm going to repeat that one more time. The scientists stressed that vitamin supplements aren't a substitute for vaccines, but they can help immunity levels. All right, I'm going to add my commentary. That sounds a lot like, yeah, it helps, but we still have to we don't want to concede that maybe there were some alternatives. We found it remarkable and striking to see the difference in chances of becoming a severe patient when you are lacking in vitamin D compared to when you're not, says Emil Dror, which is the lead study author and doctor at the Galilee Medical Center. And that's what he told Times of Israel. Although the study was conducted before the Omni-Man variant, he said the Modelo virus hasn't changed enough to negate the effectiveness of vitamin D. What we're seeing when vitamin D helps people with COVID infections is a result of effectiveness in bolstering the immune systems to deal with viral pathogens that attack the respiratory system. This is equally relevant for Omni-Man as it was for previous variants. The research team looked at vitamin D levels for more than 250 patients hospitalized at the Galilee Medical Center with a positive COVID-19 test between April 2020 and February 2021. The vitamin D levels were based on testing conducted before the hospitalization as part of routine blood work for vitamin D deficiency, ranging from 14 to 730 days before positive PCR test. Patients with a vitamin D deficiency were 14 times more likely to have severe or critical case of COVID. What's more, the mortality rate for those with insufficient vitamin D levels was 25.6% compared to only 2.3% among those with adequate levels. So even the death rate is more so, is what they're saying, a common factor. When you look at the mortality rate, 25.6% for those with insufficient vitamin D levels. The difference is still applied after researchers controlled for the patient's age, gender, and history of chronic diseases. So it applied regardless. Health officials in several countries have recommended vitamin D supplements during the pandemic, even while the data was sparse. One of those weren't America, I can tell you that. Recent studies have pointed to the links between vitamin D deficiency, severe COVID-19, and hospitalization though researchers wondered whether the coronavirus has caused the deficiency in the first place. To answer that, Dror and colleagues looked close at the data among Israeli patients. We checked a range of time frames and found that wherever you look over the 2 years before the infection, the correlation between vitamin D and disease severity is extremely strong. It emphasized the value of everyone taking a vitamin D supplement during the pandemic, which, consumed in sensible amounts in accordance to official advice, doesn't have any downside. I'm glad we got to go through this. This is something that I had been talking about before here. There was very early data that suggested this, that though there wasn't like studies with kind of a random control trial, it seemed to point to, and I wonder why they weren't getting on this earlier. That's another question, that why is it now? I'm guessing that more of this information is coming out. It seems like something very important, huh? That you would have people, even like mentioned, it doesn't have much downside if you're taking it anyway, whether it be getting it through sunshine or whether you actually take vitamin D as a supplement. If you ain't just fucking wolfing the shit down, it doesn't have much downside. Now, you think that there would be, definitely with the earlier data, this country seems to always go off preliminary data. They did, at least early on in the pandemic. Why wasn't focusing on vitamin D levels one of those? Why weren't they saying, okay, it seems like there's some sort of correlation, take your motherfucking vitamins? It was never that. Earlier on in the pandemic, it was stop and don't move and social distance if you are out and about. That was how they said you must protect yourself and others. Other way, after the jab came out, it was jab, 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 jab. So what it seemed to point to is that if you didn't go through Pfizer, 10-4 hat on, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and all these other companies, there may have been alternatives. Not to say that it would have fucking flat out prevented death. That's not what I'm saying. But there were things that you could do outside of just getting a jab that would have better protected you, or had not better protected you. You would have had a better fighting chance if you had contracted this disease or this illness. And you could have done that by going to the motherfucking Sprouts and getting some vitamin D supplements. It's easy. You can't really signal, hey, look at me, here's my vitamin D card. You can't do that. Or look at me, I'm wearing my mask. You can't really do that with vitamin D. It seems that because more people didn't have much to gain from it, it wasn't a thing that they focused on. I'm gonna end on this note. Don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at the other people. Definitely those in the health and fitness kind of realm. More so those guys that have been preaching this for a very long time, right? Don't get mad at them. How about you get mad at the fucking leaders that led your bitch ass astray? Get mad at them. Don't get mad at us for being correct. Go get mad at the people that either lied to you or withheld information, which effectively is the same fucking thing. Go get mad at them. Don't get mad at us. If you don't take vitamin D daily, if you're not one of those that are outside just getting it naturally, maybe a time to consider it. It may help you out, is all I'm saying. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.